When I was 16, my cousin Ellie and I spent the summer at our grandparents' place. This little, quiet town, right on the edge of some thick woods. Real old school kind of place, like no Wi Fi, no Netflix, barely a single bar of signal unless you stood on a fence post and prayed. It was peaceful, but in that eerie, too quiet kind of way. Everyone in town had their routines. Early mornings, close shops by 5, and one very specific warning they love to repeat. Stay out of the deep woods. Not because of animals. Not because you get lost or twist your ankle or whatever, but because of her. They called her the Witch of Hollow Pines. Yeah, I know. It sounds like something out of Halloween special, but they were dead serious. The kids had wild stories, curses, missing pets, glowing eyes. Adults were more subtle, but if you brought her up, the room got quiet fast. Nobody wanted to talk about her. And the weirdest part, no one had actually seen her in years. But somehow, everyone just knew she was still there. Ellie, of course, thought it was hilarious. She probably lives in a moldy shack and eats squirrels, she said once, grinning. I laughed. Sort of. But I don't know. The idea didn't make me laugh. It made me uncomfortable. Not scared exactly, just off. Like that feeling when someone's staring at you from behind and you can't prove it, but you know. We started asking around, just out of curiosity at first. Most people gave vague warnings or changed the subject. But this one old guy at the general store, he gave us this look, like he wanted to say something, but changed his mind at the last second. All he said was, "She's not what you think." So yeah, we went. We packed some snacks, flashlights, like it was a joke. Like we were going ghost hunting or something. Dumb teenagers with too much time and too many horror movies in our heads. The first part of the trail was easy. Sunlight through the leaves, birds chirping, all that. But the deeper we got, the quieter it got. Not in a peaceful way, just still. No wind, no bugs. Even Ellie stopped cracking jokes. And then we saw it. A shack, tucked into the trees like it had sunk into the dirt over the years. The roof sagged, moss on the walls. The door was slightly open, and she was sitting just inside. God, I still see her sometimes in my dreams. She was hunched a little, gray hair falling down over her shoulders. Eyes wide, not blinking, not moving, just watching us. Ellie grabbed my arm. "Let's go," she whispered. But I stepped forward. I don't know why. Something about her face didn't feel scary. She looked tired, like really tired. Not in a didn't sleep last night way, in a soul kind of way. "I'm sorry," I said. "We didn't mean to, bother you." She didn't say anything for a second. Then finally, her voice came out, low and cracked, but clear. "You didn't." And she pointed to this tree right outside the shack. An old pine, scarred with carvings, little symbols, names, dates. "My daughter," she said. "That's her tree. She used to carve stories into it." She smiled, kind of, but not in a happy way. It was the kind of smile people make when they're remembering something that hurts. "She went missing here. Years ago," she said. "I stayed because I didn't want her to come back to nothing." I felt sick. Like, all the stories, all the stupid rumors, they turned this woman into a ghost before she was even gone. "They call me a witch," she said. Her voice was so quiet. "But I only talk to the trees, because no one else listens." God, we sat with her for hours, just listened to her stories, to the memories, the weird games they made up, the paths they used to walk together, all carved into that one tree, like it was her last little piece of proof that her daughter had existed. And in that moment, something clicked. The woods weren't haunted, they were mourning. And she wasn't some monster. She was just a mother, forgotten, left behind, holding on to the last place she'd seen the person she loved most in the world. The next day, we went back to town, told the old man at the store everything, every word. He didn't look shocked, just nodded and said, "Took someone brave enough to hear her. Maybe now the trees will be quieter." And honestly, they were. But even now, every time I walk past a tree with names carved into it, I stop and I listen. I'm not really outdoorsy, you know? Like, camping's never been my thing. I'm more of a pizza and horror movie on the couch kind of person. But last fall, my best friend Zoe, she has this way of talking you into things. She convinced me and a couple others to go on a weekend trip near White Pines. It wasn't far from town. She made it sound cozy, I guess. Campfires, hot cocoa, stargazing, that kind of thing. And I didn't want to be that person, lame or whatever. So, yeah, I went. There were four of us: me, Zoe, her boyfriend Jordan, and his cousin Nate. We found this quiet clearing surrounded by pines, kind of tucked away from the trail. Private, peaceful. It actually started out kind of nice. That first night was cold but calm. We roasted marshmallows, told dumb ghost stories, bad ones, and just laughed. I remember thinking, okay, maybe this won't suck. But the second morning is when it started feeling off. I woke up in the tent flap. Ours was open, like fully unzipped. Not a breeze did this kind of thing. I mean, wide open. Zoe was still asleep next to me, and nothing was missing. My bag was where I left it, phone still inside. Even my granola bar wrappers were untouched. No footprints, no drag marks, no animal scratches. Just open. Weird, right? We brushed it off at first. Made jokes. Maybe Jordan came in to grab something. Or Nate wandered into the wrong tent, half asleep to pee. It happens. Still, that night we were more careful. We zipped everything all the way out. Zoe even found this tiny luggage lock in her bag and clipped it on as a joke. I remember saying something like, "If Bigfoot wants him tonight, he better know how to pick locks." Small laugh. Yeah, that aged well, because the next morning, it was open again. Same flap, zipper all the way down. But this time the lock, gone. Not broken, just gone. And again, nothing missing. Nothing moved. Just open. We searched the area, checked the dirt, the trees nearby. No signs of anyone. No raccoons. No torn trash. It was like nothing had touched the outside. Just a zipper. That was the moment the jokes kind of stopped. The third night, none of us really slept. I kept hearing tiny rustling sounds outside, like something small moving near the tent, crawling almost, but it never lasted long enough to actually catch it. And at one point, I swear this happened, I felt a little rush of cold air across my face, like someone had opened the flap just a little and let it fall shut again. I didn't open my eyes. I couldn't. By the next morning, we were all tense. Everyone pretending like it was fine, but it wasn't. Nate said maybe some creep was messing with us. Jordan was convinced it was just a curious animal. Me? I didn't know what to think. We agreed to pack up that afternoon. No one said it out loud, but we were done. The woods didn't feel quiet anymore. They felt watched. But while we were packing up, Zoe found something. It was God. It was just behind our tent, tucked behind this half-rotted log. A sock. A little sock. Like for a toddler. It was muddy and torn at the heel. Way too small for any of us. We all just stared at it for a second. And then we noticed the marks in the dirt. Not boot prints. Not adult. Small. Barefoot. Nate followed the trail a bit, just kind of scanning ahead. And that's when we saw him. A kid, maybe 6 years old. No shoes. Standing between two trees, just watching us. He didn't run. Didn't smile. Just stood there. Eyes wide and glassy. I don't know how else to describe it. Like he hadn't blinked in hours. Zoe stepped forward and called out, "Hey, are you lost?" He didn't answer. His lips were shaking, like he wanted to say something, but couldn't get it out. Jordan tried too. "Where are your parents, buddy?" Still nothing. Eventually we coaxed him over, real slow. Got him to sit near the fire pit. He didn't speak. He didn't cry. Just kept glancing at her tent, like he was waiting for something. I don't even know why I asked it, but it just came out. "Were you coming into our tent at night?" He nodded. Once. Slow. And then he pointed at Zoe and said, "God," it still echoes in my head. He said, "Mommy told me to come here if I get cold. She said you keep me warm." I felt the blood drain out of my face. Zoe just froze. She kept whispering, "I don't have a kid. I don't have a kid." But the boy wasn't confused. He didn't seem scared, just tired, like that was the most normal thing in the world. We called the Rangers. Turns out, a child matching his description had been reported missing 2 months ago, from a town over 30 miles away. They were stunned he was alive. No coat, no food, barefoot, and somehow he'd survived. His mom, she died on that camping trip. Got sick. No one found them. And he'd been wandering the woods alone ever since. Hiding. Scared. Looking for warmth, I guess. And somehow, he found us. Slipped into our tent while we slept. Because in his mind, we were safe. We were what his mother promised. We don't talk about that trip anymore. But every time I zip up a tent now, or even close my bedroom door, I check. Twice. Because sometimes it's not monsters in the woods. It's not evil. It's just something lost. And it's cold. And it's scared. And it's trying to find its way home. It started on our second night out there. There were 4 of us. Me, Josh, Emily, and Tanner. Just friends trying to get away for a few days. We picked this forest preserve none of us had ever been to. Real remote. No cell signal. No signs of life beyond like moss and bugs. Exactly what we were going for, I guess. We set up camp near this little creek. Not fast, just kind of trickling. There was this old ranger trail nearby too, but it looked abandoned, honestly. Half covered in roots and overgrowth. Probably hadn't been walked in years. The first night was fine. Cold, sure, but quiet. Peaceful even. That kind of silence that makes you feel small in a good way. But the second night, God, everything changed. It was around 1 in the morning. Fire was out. We were all zipped up in our tents, half asleep when we heard it. Crying. Soft at first. Way off in the trees. Like someone was trying not to be heard, but needed to be. At first, I thought maybe I was dreaming. You know how sounds kind of meld into your head when you're on the edge of sleep? But then it happened again, longer this time. Fragile. Definitely human. A girl. Crying. We all froze. I mean, I felt everyone stiffen up inside the tent. No one said anything until finally Emily whispered, "Do you hear that?" Josh clicked on his flashlight, but he didn't unzip the tent. None of us did. We just sat there listening, like somehow, if we stayed still enough, whatever it was wouldn't come closer. Eventually, it stopped. But then the next night, it came back. Same time, same sound. Same. Weird sadness behind it. By the third night, we weren't really sleeping. We just laid there waiting for it to start. Like clockwork. I remember holding my breath, just waiting for it. And when it started, yeah, that same ache in the chest, that same pit in the stomach. We didn't know what to do. Then on the fourth night, Emily said it. I think we should go see. Josh just shook his head immediately. What if it's a trap? His voice cracked a little when he said it. Emily looked at him like he was being ridiculous. A trap? Out here? And yeah, it sounded dumb, but part of me agreed with him. Tanner and I didn't say anything, but we didn't have to. Our silence basically screamed, we're scared. Still, we couldn't ignore it. Not after 4 nights. So, we waited again. And when we heard her crying, we grabbed our flashlights and started walking. Slow, careful, like every step felt heavier than the last. The sound, it moved sort of further back, but never too far. Almost like she wanted us to follow, but didn't want to be found. If that makes any sense. Then, after maybe 10 minutes, we saw something. Just a flicker, like something brown shifting behind a tree. Emily called out, really soft. Hello. No answer. But then we saw her. She stepped out just enough for the light to catch her face. God, she looked like a ghost, honestly. Pale, skinny, dirt all over her hands and face. Hoodie ripped to hell. Maybe 13. I don't know. She looked young. Way too young to be alone out here. She just stared at us, like she didn't know whether to run or speak or vanish. Emily stepped forward real gentle and said, It's okay. We're not here to hurt you. That's when she finally said something. Just a whisper. Or are you with him? We just stood there, all of us. No one knew what to say. And she started shaking her head like really panicked. Please don't take me back. That's when it hit us. She wasn't lost. She was hiding. It took a while to get her to trust us. We didn't push. Just offered water, snacks, a jacket. She sat down on this rock near a tree and kind of curled into herself. She told us enough to get the picture. She'd run away. From someone bad. From a place that wasn't safe. I won't go into the details because she didn't. But she'd been out there for weeks. Maybe longer. Sleeping in hollowed logs. Drinking from the creek. Crying at night because it was the only time she thought no one would hear her. She didn't even know anyone was nearby. We brought her back to our site. Used the emergency radio we barely remembered we packed. Rangers showed up the next morning. Quiet guys. Serious faces. They were gentle with her, though. She didn't cry when they came. She just stood up, like she was ready. I still think about her sometimes. How close we came to never following the sound. How many other nights she must have sat out there, crying, while people just walked by or didn't even hear her. And I don't know. The woods have this way of making you feel like the only thing out there is trees and wind. But sometimes, the real horror, it's that someone could be screaming or sobbing, and the world just stays silent. Because nobody's listening.